everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Happy Thursday. We're almost done with the week. Obviously, today's show and tomorrow's show left to go. So, man, it's going to be a good show. We got a lot of interesting things we want to talk about, including the robots are coming, and they're laughing at us. So, that's a bit of a fun story. Then we'll talk about Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Stormy Daniels. Then we've got some disastrous news on Sinclair Broadcasting Group. That is the ultra right-wing station that is trying to get 70% stake in American households. Oh boy. A disastrous new report on what they're doing. Then we're going to go to Canada and talk about healthcare. Then we're going to come back to the United States and still talk about healthcare, single payer. And then we've got Democrats attacking Democrats. Here we go again. Actually, they're attacking progressive Democratic candidates. Then we've got some stories from yesterday that I didn't have time to get to, including the West Virginia strike and the role that the Democratic Party played in that. And finally, of course, corruption within the Trump administration. Oh, what? You wouldn't think there'd be corruption in the Trump administration, would you? Turns out there's a lot of corruption. And, of course, I'm being a bit sarcastic. So, all right. But anyway, that's what we've got planned for today's show. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. Really, really important. Get the message out. Also, I will be asking you guys for suggestions on what we can do to make the show better. Reach more people, reach a bigger audience, and things like that. So please let me know. All right. You can do that on Twitter if you have a Twitter account. That's at Jeff's Politics or at TYT Nation on Twitter. So, okay. That's it. Before I get into the show, I want to thank everybody for watching, of course. And I want to thank the patrons, especially patreon.com/TYT Nation. That's how you can support the show. Thank you all for doing so. And then, of course, there's another way to help the show, and that's through the Super Chat. I see you guys have been using that a lot. Thank you. I appreciate that. That absolutely helps the show. In fact, there's a Super Chat message that I see right now. Good morning to you, Platypi. So, that's an Australian viewer, in case you're wondering. It's not exactly morning here, but it is morning over there. So, and I also hope that you have a great day as well. So, thank you. All right. Let's get into the stories. Let's start out with some fun. The robots are coming. Why would that be fun? Well, you'll see. Now, here come the robots. But instead of trying to kill us, they're laughing at us. At least right now. Some Alexa users have reported hearing strange laughing coming from their Alexa devices. Now, this is I believe this is the Amazon virtual assistant. There's like every company seems to have a virtual assistant. I don't understand the appeal of having a virtual assistant, but whatever. Now, this laugh apparently happens randomly when no one seems to be using the devices or in response to any request to turn on or off certain lights. I think I could understand that, and Amazon actually came out with a statement saying, well, Amazon, Alexa is confusing lights with laughs. And so when you say, oh, turn off the lights, and it laughs at you. I don't know. Maybe. Look, it obviously seems to be a little bit of a glitch, but it does show you how weird some of these devices can actually be. Now, not only that, but Alexa's laugh is not the only thing that seems to be freaking people out. Others have claimed that Alexa has stopped responding to requests, and one Twitter user said their Amazon Echo suddenly began listing names of local funeral homes and cemeteries unprompted. Again, that seems a little creepy. This is why I don't have like, just imagine you're sitting there and then your virtual assistant starts reading off cemeteries. Like, oh, well, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Where did that come from? And then laughing, of course, in the middle of the night. Some users report that as well on Twitter. So, yeah, hey, technology. Gotta love it, right? In fact, this was first reported on Twitter by Captain Handlebar, which is a great name, by the way. So Alexa decided to laugh randomly when I was in the kitchen. Freaked me out. I thought a kid was laughing behind me. And since then, different people have been noticing different laughter. Sometimes are unprompted, or appears as a bizarre response to a request to turn off the lights. Gavin Hightower tweeted out, lying in bed about to fall asleep when Alexa on my Amazon Echo Dot lets out a very loud and creepy laugh. There's a good chance I get murdered tonight. Look, man, this is one of the reasons why I don't have it. Because, number one, it's full of glitches. So when you start having your AI or your assistants control things in your home, like the lights and stuff, that's weird. I think that puts a little bit too much control over your household. You put that control into the hands of something that can obviously be hacked, or where they can have glitches that are super, super weird, and sometimes funny, like this, of course. But there's a more serious component to this, and one of the reasons that I don't have one of these assistants is because, look, it constantly listens to you. That's look, and part of its design is, well, it has to be able to record what you're saying in order to hear its name so it can help you. Yeah, but the other part of that is that it listens to you at all times, it records you at all times, and who knows what it's doing with that information. So that's a serious component to this story. It glitching out and laughing at you, again, that's funny, a little creepy, and you can make a lot of robot apocalypse jokes. But really the scary part about this thing is the fact that it has and records all your information and stores it God knows where. And it can share it with, obviously, Amazon, knows all your stuff, can listen to your conversations, and it could pass that information off to the government. Now, look, there's a story that came out recently that's sort of related to this, and that's was Best Buy. Best Buy, their Geek Squad, it was just revealed that they work together to get your information. The FBI and the Geek Squad at Best Buy. Look, these corporations, man, they're collecting all your information. They're passing it off to the government. They're sometimes selling it to third parties. And, we're able to do that here in America, too, thanks to Republicans and some corporate Democrats. I believe Nancy Pelosi helped vote, and Dianne Feinstein helped to vote to allow these companies to continue to sell your data to third parties. Not good. That's why I won't ever trust these sort of these virtual assistants and anything that constantly records you, which is ironic because I record myself for a living. I understand the irony inherent in this, but nonetheless, all that, why I'm not interested, and why just the creepy laughs are just the extra layer of nope on the cake. Okay. Okay. More fun. So I'm following the news that Stormy Daniels is suing the president over a breach in her hush money contract Sarah Huckabee Sanders went and did a press conference yesterday, and apparently she did not do a very good job because Donald Trump appears to be very angry at her because of it. Now, according to CNN sources, Donald Trump is upset at Sarah Huckabee Sanders after she brought up the fact that Trump's attorneys had won arbitration that granted a temporary restraining order against Daniels to prevent her from publicly discussing their past affair. Now, Daniels also, her real name is, of course, Stephanie Clifford, and that was on the lawsuit, is suing because, hey, look, Donald Trump, yes, his lawyer, Michael Cohen, offered me $130,000 of hush money. I took it, but it turns out he didn't sign it. Well, part of the agreement is that Michael Cohen signed the hush money agreement, and Donald Trump didn't, and I guess it wasn't required that both of those people sign that agreement. Nonetheless, she's like, no, both of them should have signed that agreement, and now they're conspiring, of course, against me, using tactics to try to shut me up, to try to stop me from telling my story. At least that's what she says. Now, CNN says the Trump believes this admission on Sanders' part didn't kill the story and instead gave it steroids so it would dominate further news cycles. Now, this is Jim Acosta. It's reporting that a source close to the White House says Trump is upset with Sarah Huckabee Sanders over her handle of the Stormy Daniels questions. POTUS is very unhappy. Sarah gave Stormy Daniels' storyline steroids yesterday. So, look, I'm going to be 100% with you guys. Okay. Look, I don't care about the affair. I know, I said it. It's huge news. Like, for a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, he had an affair. Yeah, that wouldn't be the first time, dude. It probably won't be the last time. Not a big deal. Now, look, if you're paying your lawyer to do hush money, then that could be some violations of FEC law. Now, that's interesting, and that's actually important, but will it be enforced? Come on, the FEC hardly enforces anything, especially against people who are rich and powerful or they're politically connected. Now, you go against that. For example, Bernie Sanders, you have Australians coming in and volunteering on your campaign and getting paid by a PAC to do so, or some organization, I should say, not a PAC, organization that pays for it. Well, then you're going to get nailed by FEC fines. Oh boy, they're going to come after you. But you do all sorts of FEC violations, including hush money. No, they're not going to come after you because you are rich and powerful. And you are not against the system. So one thing Republicans and Democrats can't seem to come together on is actually going after people who actually abuse the system. But nonetheless, earlier today, Mr. Cohen, before that, Daniel's attorney, Michael Avenatti, said on Wednesday that his client would not be coerced by Cohen into backing off her pledge to tell her story. And that's, of course, where the intimidation comes into play, because her lawyer says, no, this is just part of this intimidation to try to keep her quiet, to try to keep her from selling her story. Selling her story, sell is the kind of the important part. But earlier today, Mr. Cohen, through his attorney, Mr. Lawrence Rosen, so now we've got attorneys that have attorneys, further said that Mr. Lawrence Rosen said further, I'm sorry, this is a quote from Avenatti. Earlier today, Michael Cohen, through his attorney, Mr. Rosen, further threatened my client in an effort to prevent her from telling the truth about what really happened. We do not take kindly to these threats, nor will we be intimidated. Again, I'm going to be really honest. This is about the money. Come on, this is about the money. Look, Stormy Daniels wants to sell her story for more than $130,000. Why? Because there's a lot of media outlets that are very, very interested in this story. Their mainstream corporate media is far more interested in this story than they are about banking deregulation. It's not a sexy story. But when it comes to this is a literally sexy story. And to be honest, look, there is appeal to covering this story because of how unprecedented it is how out of the norm this entire thing is. Again, imagine if Obama had done this. Imagine if Obama had paid off a porn star in order to shut her up because, you know, the lawyers or whatever thought that it would hurt his re-election chances. Which, look, to be honest, on the Democratic side, it probably would. I mean, look, how do you take down a politician? What's the best way to take down at least a Democratic politician or somebody who's fighting the power? You go for sex scandals, right? Elliot Spitzer's great example of that. He went after the banks. Oh, and guess what? Look at sex scandal. But of course, Republicans doesn't necessarily work. A lot of the Republicans that have been hit with the sex scandals, yeah, sure, they quit maybe. Or they go, look at me, I found Jesus. I have been redeemed. And they buy it. And look, evangelicals, they don't care. They voted for Trump en masse, even with all those different allegations floating around. There are a lot of conservatives that voted for Roy Moore, even with all of their stuff around. So, again, they really don't care. That's why I'm of the mind that this isn't, like, huge. This isn't a huge story, other than the FEC violations, which I actually do care about, because I actually care about rule of law. But let's be honest, this is about Stormy Daniels. She wants to sell her story. She wants to get more money from the tabloids. And again, understandable. And understandably from Trump, he didn't want it getting out because it might make him look bad, or at least his lawyers didn't want it getting out. So that's just the truth of it. Okay. Let me move on here. First, I do have a super chat from Karen. She asked about the big fight between California and Sessions. Okay, so I don't know too much about that right now. I haven't really read too much into it. But what I've been seeing is that it's likely going to backfire on Sessions and the administration. I'm not quite sure how yet. But it will be interesting to see what's going on. And this is over sanctuary cities and things like that. So, look, sanctuary cities, the thing about that is that the whole narrative on sanctuary cities is completely wrong. It's just saying that, hey, maybe we shouldn't keep people in jail that are immigrants. We shouldn't have immigrants fill our jails and our detention centers. Because it's a big waste of public taxpayer money. That's all they're saying, is that we're just not going to imprison people. Anyway, I'll look more into it, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. So, let's continue. Let's go to Sinclair. Now, Sinclair Broadcasting is one of the largest private media companies in America. Now, currently, they broadcast into about 40% of all American households. Now, that's sort of problematic because of their stance on issues. They happen to be massively right-wing. Now, look, I would have the same problem if there were a massively left-wing program or a station or company that has total media ownership. Now, I would also have a problem if it did the same thing as Sinclair. And that's where the problem really lies. Not the fact that it has an ideology, it's the fact that it uses propaganda to spread that ideology. Now, look, they've been busted before requiring their stations to do pro-Trump, pro-conservative propaganda. Now, a lot of that is in the form of conservative video op-eds that they have to slip into their programming. That's not straight news. That's having an ideological agenda. But it actually gets worse because they're trying to hide the idea that they have a political agenda, and they're trying to say, no, what we're actually fair and balanced, which they're apparently not. Now, this company, before I go on to this new report, is also known for featuring top conservatives and and having hired former Trump spokesperson Boris Epstein last year. So now, look, if that's not bad enough, all that stuff, it actually gets far worse. Sinclair Broadcasting Group, according to The Hill, is requiring news anchors at its local stations to take part in a new promotional campaign. This promotional campaign is basically, hey, mainstream news outlets, you are doing fake news. You are doing fake stories. CNN reported on Wednesday that the script for promotional campaign begins with local anchors praising the quality, balanced journalism produced by local news stations, but then pivots to the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country. Now, this script is all too familiar if you've listened to right-wing media, if you've listened to President Trump. It says, the sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, national media outlets are publishing these same fake stories without checking facts first. Now, do they have any examples of that? Not necessarily. At least not from what I've seen from the memo. Because again, this is a script that is sent out to all these local stations for their on-air talent to read. And I'm going to actually tell you the reaction to that later on in the story. But first, I want to get through some of the rest of the script. Now, they said, unfortunately, some members of the national media are using their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. Look, irony is dead. It's not only dead, but they just dug it up and shot its corpse. Now, the script also has anchors say that they understand that truth is neither politically left or right. Well, look, I actually do think that that is true. The truth does not have a political bias. Facts do not have a political bias. Facts are facts, and they are stubborn things. The thing is that we have one party that is more in tune to the facts, or one ideology that is more in tune and based on facts, and another ideology that seems to eschew all facts and just makes things up. Now, I'm not saying that, of course, the left has a monopoly on facts. In fact, you can point to a lot of examples where, look, some in the left wing are not entirely factual. I mean, on some of the stuff when it comes to Russia, there's a true set of facts on Russia. And then there's a narrative on Russia that's not necessarily true or doesn't necessarily hold to the facts. Okay. But look, what I'm saying is, more often than not, if you are on the left side of the aisle, you are more exposed to facts. And you can put your own opinion onto those facts. That's what I do. I take facts that we know to be true, and then I do commentary on those facts. The right, in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, makes things up in order to suit their agenda. So, look, that's unfortunately what's going on. I would rather see somebody who is a conservative take facts and then do their commentary on it. And again, there are conservatives out there that actually do that do admit to facts. So, and that's good. That's what we want. And you can have your own opinion on those facts, but please just acknowledge that things are true. For God's sakes. All right, anyway. Now, the script says our commitment to factual reporting is the foundation of our credibility now more than ever. Now, CNN is also reporting that there are instructions that come along with this script that direct anchors to read the scripts exactly as they are written. No ad-libbing. You can't ad-lib. Okay. Why? Because it's got the word lib in it. Of course. Duh. Can't do that. Now, local stations are also instructed to run the promos as frequently as possible to create maximum reach and frequency, and are told to run the promos using news time, not commercial time. So this is right inside your news broadcast. Maximum reach and frequency. Brings me back to a quote from World War II. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Those are the words of Nazi Germany's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. This seems to be what they're doing by accusing everyone else of being fake news. This whole, you're fake news, you're fake news, you're fake news, everybody's fake news except for me or Fox News or Limbaugh or whatever, is dangerous. And look, it's very successful as well because, look, once you tell everybody and once you get everyone to believe that all other stations are fake, which they're certainly not, then you can tell them anything and they will believe you. So, again, that's super problematic. Now, how do the anchors feel about this? And that's really, really important. Now, one anchor at a Sinclair station who spoke to CNN anonymously said, quote, everyone at their local station was uncomfortable with the promo. Another anchor told CNN, I felt like a POW recording a message. So there's a lot of people that are very, very uncomfortable because they see what this is. They see this is propaganda. They see that this is a blatant attempt to get them to get their viewers to not trust what is being reported in mainstream news. Look, I criticize mainstream news. I criticize CNN, MSNBC, and obviously Fox News, right? Because they're actually one of the biggest stations, and I have a lot of criticism towards those stations. But and look, you can criticize MSNBC for constantly harping on Russia, and I totally agree with you on that. But saying that all of them are fake news because they report on something that you don't like, well, that's different. That's where it gets problematic. And Fox News has been doing this model for decades. In fact, that's what they were built on. And that's why they've created this alternate universe. Sinclair is taking it further. As Fox News is one station. Here you have a company that has 40%, that reaches 40% of all households. And it gets worse. Because if this company merges with Tribune, it will have access to 70% of American households. You allow a company with that much reach and that much clout. Look, media consolidation is already bad enough as it is. But you start hitting that local news stations, that local news market, where a lot of Americans get their news, and filling it with, whether it be left-wing propaganda or right-wing propaganda. That's dangerous because you are actually telling people what to think instead of giving them actual news. So, look, I think that maybe we need like a fairness doctrine, a return to that, or something. But look, if you don't see the problem with so few companies that are controlling so much of the information that we see in here, then I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help you. For the rest of us who do see a problem with that, we got to figure out some way to do something. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break here. Hey, that was too quick. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got more stories, including what's going on in Canada with healthcare. Tim Kaine. I bet you missed him. And then we have progressives getting attacked by Democrats. And then, well, all sorts of stories. So stay right here. We'll be right back. Around the Nation. Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. It's the most important thing you can do. I think sharing is caring, so helps us out greatly if you spread it around. Okay. Let's talk about healthcare. Excuse me. So in America right now, we're having a conversation about healthcare, about whether or not we should go to a single-payer system. Well, look, single-payer is obviously the way to go. Medicare for all. You expand Medicare, you cover everybody. No deductibles, no copays. It's actually cheaper on the administrative front. We don't have to pay for executive bonuses or advertising costs or things like that. So single-payer healthcare is a fantastic idea. Nonetheless, we seem to be having a debate about the role of the government when it comes to covering people in healthcare. Now, in Canada, they don't have that problem. And in fact, in Canada, one of the biggest protests in their healthcare system that's happening right now is a protest by doctors who feel they're getting paid too much. I kid you not. According to Newsweek, hundreds of Canadian doctors, medical specialists, and residents, as well as medical students, have signed a petition protesting pay raises for themselves. They instead asked that this money be reallocated to help both nurses and patients in need. The letter, posted in French because it's, of course, in a certain Canadian province in which French is the main language. They said, "We Quebec doctors who believe in a strong public system oppose the recent salary increases negotiated by our medical federations. These increases are all the more shocking because our nurses, clerks, and other professionals face very difficult working conditions, while our patients live with the lack of access to required services, mainly because of the drastic cuts in recent years and the centralization of power in the Ministry of Health. The only thing that seems to be immune to the cuts is our remuneration." Now, they continue, "We believe that there is a way to redistribute the resources of the Quebec health system to promote the health of the population and meet the needs of patients without pushing workers to the end." Now, okay. Redistribution. I'm pretty sure every conservative had exploded upon hearing that message. But everybody else who's left, look, that makes sense, right? So, look, what's going on is nurses are underpaid. And, of course, conservatives in Canada have tried to dismantle the single-payer system. Slowly by making budget cuts. It's what they're also doing in the United Kingdom. Now, publicly, of course, they can't come out and say, "Oh, we would rather have the American healthcare system where all the money comes from goes to private corporations, and those private corporations then will buy us off with campaign donations." It doesn't quite work like that in Canada, from my understanding. But there are conservatives that are in line with private interests that would love to see privatization of their system. They can't come out and say that because every voter, almost every voter, I should say, would be against it because Canadians genuinely love their single-payer healthcare system. Now, doctors. Now, here's the thing that you hear about Canadian doctors. Oh, my God. Canadian doctors, they don't make enough money. In fact, they are fleeing Canada to go to the United States. Well, here's some numbers that might interest you. The average Canadian physician in 2016 earned around $260,000, according to a September 2017 report from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. Now, the Institute clarified that this figure indicates only gross pay and doesn't account for each doctor's overhead. So there is a chance that they could get paid, that they're actually getting paid even more than $260,000. This is in Canada, which conservatives are like, "Oh my God, all the doctors are fleeing Canada. because their socialist healthcare system doesn't pay doctors. These seem to get paid quite a bit. Of course, I guess if you compare it to American doctors and, more importantly, American health insurance CEOs, well, then $260,000 is peanuts. But nonetheless, I say it's pretty good. Now, the group that published the petition is, Médecins Québécois pour le Régime. I'm sorry, I cannot speak French. I apologize. But let's just call it the MQRP. Now, they also had authored a February 17th letter opposing $500 million in pay increases for specialist doctors, calling those increases indecent. Now, the latest letter comes after nurses held a sit-in to protest their working conditions. On February 1st, a group of doctors published a letter of solidarity supporting their colleagues. Quote, "The subject of nurses' work overload is at the heart of the news following the sit-ins," the MQRP wrote. MQRP joins its voices to those of nurses to denounce this unacceptable situation, which affects the quality of care for the Quebec population and weakens our public health system. We also wish to remind the government that the current situation is far from normal or inevitable and is largely caused by the cuts it has imposed on the public network. More than 700 people have added their names to the petition since it was published on February 25th. As of earlier this week, at least 213 general practitioners, 184 specialists, 149 residential medical doctors, and 162 medical students had signed the petition, according to numbers from CNBC. So, here are doctors in Canada trying to protect their healthcare system from cuts by passing on increases to their own pay. They're like, no, don't raise my pay. Give it to people who actually need it. We get paid enough. Now, contrast that to what's happening in America, where 45,000 people a year, according to a 2009 study, died from lack of health care. But in Canada, who dies from lack of health care? Nobody. Everybody has the ability to go and see a doctor. Yes, there are elective surgeries that have waiting lists. I'm not saying that their system is completely perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have here. In fact, the Commonwealth Fund has rated the U.S. healthcare system as the worst among the 11 developed nations it analyzed as part of an evaluation conducted every 3 years. They also rated the U.S. healthcare system as the worst performing of the nations analyzed when the last evaluation was released in 2014. This is after Obamacare was passed. Look, conservatives want to say, oh, look at all these countries with socialized medicine. They have terrible service. Oh my God, they perform horribly and they're horribly expensive. Look at all the taxes they pay. But wait a minute, the UK, which is first on this list, by the way, ranks first, is actually, look, we spend twice as much on our healthcare system per capita than they do. And we have the worst performing healthcare system of all the nations and most expensive. And there are thousands of people who die every year for lack of health care. And here in America, we're talking about access. Oh, we should all have access to be able to have health care. No. We should have health care. Health care is a human right. Look, and that same thing, Canada. Look, Canada ranks 9th. But I think there's a big difference. There's not a big difference between 9th and 11th, but there's a big difference in our healthcare programs. They have a single payer system. We have for-profit, profit-driven healthcare. Come on, man. And look, The UK, as I said, ranked first on that, followed by Australia, the Netherlands, and New Zealand. Not only that, but the United States ranks 37th in healthcare in the world. I wonder why that is. We've got to open up Medicare. We have got to expand Medicare to everybody. This simple story points out the complete difference in the attitudes about healthcare. Like I said, these doctors in Canada, they're like, we get paid too much. We want to actually protect the system. We actually want to take care of Canadians. Here in America, look, in America, we do have groups that are actually pushing for Medicare for all. The nurses' unions. The nurses come to save the day. National Nurses United. They're the first to line up behind Bernie Sanders and to line up behind his single-payer Medicare for all plan. It is the nurses in both countries that are pushing for social justice, which is amazing. And we should definitely listen to and support our nurses. Okay. I'm not done with single payer. But first, let me go to a super chat here. Josh writes in, my father fears single payer like it's communism. Ironically, he can't wait to get his Medicare next year. Stories like that are way, way too often. They don't understand what communism is. They don't understand what socialism is, ironically. And they love it when they benefit from socialism. You know that Medicare has a nearly 80% approval rating. It's one of the most popular one of the most popular programs in the entire country. And yet, no. Sorry, let's not open it up to the people. Let's not open it up to everybody, because that's communism. But I can't wait to get my communism. It doesn't make any sense. You're absolutely right. But look, a lot of that is based on, unfortunately, the power of propaganda. People are told over and over again that no, healthcare for everybody is a bad thing. It's communism. It's socialism. Those are evil. Those are bad. It's going to come out with worse health outcomes. You're going to be worse for it. And then it's going to cost you more. When actually, none of that is true. And what we have is a system, ironically, that is the very system that they warn against. One that costs a lot, covers very little, and enriches the few at the top. But you know what? It's crazy what some people will believe. Okay. We're going to go from Republicans to Democrats on healthcare. Not that they're doing much better. Okay. So Senator Tim Kaine is having some reservations about some of his Democratic colleagues' embrace of Medicare for all, of single-payer health care. Now, Tim Kaine was, of course, Hillary Clinton's vice presidential pick during the 2016 election. He was the one that everybody kind of forgot about. I remember making jokes about him being on a milk carton because he was gone. Like, nobody saw him. Nobody noticed him. I kind of forgot he was even there. Why? Because he had the charisma of a piece of driftwood. But anyway, so he's the senator from Virginia. Again, for some reason, she decided, oh, let's pick someone from Virginia because that'll get everybody excited. Oh, look, he speaks Spanish. Oh my God. Anyway, so the Democrats are unbearable, as I'm about to show you. Now, at the Federation of American Hospitals policy conference in Washington, D.C., Tim Kaine told a crowd, quote, I've got some concerns about it, meaning Medicare for all, meaning single payer. Chief among my concerns, he says, is with more than 100 million Americans getting health insurance through an employer-provided plan, and 80% of those are generally happy with their plan, I don't think they're going to feel good when we tell them, we're going to do a single-payer system, but don't worry, you'll like it just as much. For some reason, I just don't think they're going to believe us when we say that. See, look at that. We can't do single-payer because we don't think that people who are on employer-sponsored plans are going to like it. So, forget about the millions of people who don't have insurance, by the way, who cannot see a doctor, or the millions of people who do have insurance but still can't see a doctor because they can't afford the copays or deductibles. Now, forget those guys. No, we're just worried about the people that are working in the companies that actually have employer-sponsored insurance. We can't mess with them. Oh, do you realize that a Medicare for All insurance program would cover them as well, and that it would be better coverage for cheaper? Look, Medicare, as I mentioned, has an over 77% approval rating. There are people on Medicare or that are waiting for Medicare that can't wait to get on Medicare. Why? Because it works. Because it's popular. Nobody on Medicare says, I really wish I wasn't on Medicare, that I wish I could have a private plan. And look, with the way that Medicare works now, there are many people on private supplement plans. Guess what? Bernie Sanders' plan would expand Medicare to cover the things that those private insurance plans currently cover, which means Medicare would cover, for example, vision and dental, things like that. Very, very important things, by the way. Dental is just as important to health as anything else. And vision, well, look, I have glasses. I'm going to speak for myself here, but I think vision is kind of important to have. So, yes, it makes sense that it would be involved in a expansion of Medicare, and that's what Bernie Sanders' plan actually covers. So a lot of that covers more than what health insurance does. Because again, a lot of health insurance plans on the private market don't cover vision and dental. So you would actually get a step up, and you wouldn't have to pay a premium. Instead, it would come out of your taxes, and actually it would end up being cheaper for you overall because of the lack of administrative costs, things like that. So look, there are other benefits to Medicare for All. For example, look, the people who are tied into these and who like these employer-sponsored plans, well, what if they want to change a career? Well, you change your career, you're going to have to lose your health insurance. Nobody wants to do that. You no longer, under a Medicare for All system, you would no longer be tied to your job based on your healthcare benefits. Or if you lose your job, or if you become sick, and then lose your job from being sick, you wouldn't lose your health care. And look, as a bonus, it doesn't just help regular people who are working, it also helps employers. I mean, look, employers right now are right now, they offer and they shoulder a lot of the costs of employee-sponsored health care. Now, of course, they've increasingly tried to shift that cost off to their employees. And, well, that's not good. But, look, if we have a Medicare for All system, then the costs are shifted away from the corporations, away from the companies, away from the employers who do want to, offer employee-sponsored health care. It frees up their money to be able to, invest in jobs or whatever, and do stock buybacks, whatever the hell they want to do. That actually will help their company. So this is good for companies, too. Good for companies, good for employees, good for Americans. But let me tell you who they're not good for. Health insurance companies. Now, I'm not saying that health insurance companies should all immediately disappear. I think, there's a role. Elective procedures, for example, things like that you don't really need. But all basic healthcare should be covered by the government. And that's that Bernie Sanders model. Again, if you want to do cosmetic surgery, whatever, you love getting facelifts or whatever, or boob jobs, okay, let's have a private insurer cover that. But for everything else, things that are important to your health, it should be covered. And look, healthcare should be a right for everybody. Now, of course, look, Tim Kaine doesn't agree because his base isn't the voters. It's the health insurance companies. Medicare for All has over 50% approval. Nearly 2/3 of all Democrats support it. And yet, who do you think is Tim Kaine's base? Ain't the voters, health insurance companies. In fact, according to Open Secrets, Tim Kaine has taken $300,000 from the healthcare industry. And taken more from lobbyists. So, look, this is why He's fighting against Medicare for all. Now, you know what he wants to do instead? And of course, this is a classic establishment line. Let's improve Obamacare. Oh, okay. Well, he says, quote, I believe about any bill that you pass, a bill, and even if you say, this bill did significant good, you have to be analyzing it to see what it can be done better. So his entire plan is, hey, let's improve the failed market-based system, which despite some of its upsides, and look, I have friends that have been assisted by the ACA. There's been a lot of people that have been helped out by the ACA, and also the Medicaid expansion, which was inside the ACA as well. And all that's good stuff. And there was some forward momentum, right? And it was a step. It laid the groundwork, right? But at the end of the day, it is still a flawed for-profit model. And you can't fix that model. Because to fix it, again, to fix the problems inherent in this for-profit system, you would have to change it away from being a for-profit system. That's not what Tim Kaine plans to do. That's not what the establishment plans to do. They want to continue to tweak it here and there, but we're still going to allow these private corporations to make money because those private corporations pay lobbyists to go in and give us money as politicians. It's bribery, man. Now, Tim Kaine maybe have made some news earlier because the establishment, well, now they've just started coming around to the idea of a public option. Of course. A little late because that's what we were talking about at the very least back when President Obama was debating the ACA. We said, hey, look, if you're not going to go for Medicare for all, at least put in a public option and then maybe at least move us towards a Medicare for all system. No, that's not what they did. They completely threw that out. And now the Center for American Progress under Neera Tannen, they've come up with a plan. Like, we're going to call it Medicare X. We're going to put in a public option that you can buy into. You can kind of sort of buy into Medicare a little bit, but we're still not going to go to a single payer system. Now, of course, they call that amazing progress. That ain't progress, right? Because, look, a public option would still be inside of that for-profit healthcare model. And that for-profit healthcare model, that is the problem in the first place. Now, the FHA president, Chip Kahn, told Kaine after his remarks that this organization was concerned. Well, no, why would they be concerned? About lower reimbursement rates under Medicare, and instead had urged lawmakers to work to fix Obamacare. Now, Cohen also said, we signed on to Obamacare because we thought it was the best route to universal coverage. And if it hadn't been for the Supreme Court and Republicans, it would have been. No, it would not have been. Again, the way that President Obama and a lot of the Democrats operate is they'll pass a small amount of change, a little bit of a program that's, hey, it's decent, it's all right, it helps, and it's a little bit better, and we're going to call it historic change. And then we're going to wash our hands of it while we continue to enrich our donors. That's not the system that we need. That's not the system that we deserve. We actually deserve better. Look, the corporate Democrats, by the way, they're the ones who watered the ACA down and made sure it wasn't a public option or a single-payer system. They made sure that our healthcare system, the one that conservatives decry as socialism, actually turned out to be a Heritage Foundation think tank hatched plan, which is fundamentally flawed because it makes healthcare, which is a human right, unarguably a human right for all Americans, into a commodity that right now is truly only available to the wealthiest Americans. That is not how it should be. Look, Tim Kaine may have some concerns about single payer, but I think that we should all have a lot of concerns about Tim Kaine and his brand of corporate Democrat. Okay. Let's continue. We got more Democrat shenanigans. I'm really loving these sidebars today. Nailed it. All right. The Democratic establishment continues its attacks against progressive candidates that are running in primaries all over the country. Now, this time, this is happening in Illinois. Now, Michael Sonato, writing for The Intercept, is pointing out a race, or a couple of races, actually, where the Democrats in Illinois specifically are attacking progressive candidates, and you should get a load of the smears that they're using. Now, Sonato writes, the Illinois Democratic machine has unleashed a wave of attacks on fellow Democrats in local races, with State Party Chair Michael Madigan funding mailers, knocking several progressive candidates as Donald Trump stooges and foot soldiers in the Tea Party. So, let me just kind of summarize that just a little bit. Let me see if we are understanding this correctly. A centrist corporate Democrat who's a power broker in the Democratic Party in Illinois is like, oh, look at these progressives. You know what they are? They're foot soldiers to Donald Trump and the Tea Party. That's amazing. Now, they said that Madigan's campaign committee has spent nearly $19,000 on mailers attacking two Our Revolution-backed candidates in state Central Democratic Committee elections. Now, this is Elizabeth Lindquist and Art Bardsley. Now, the postcards say that Lindquist and Bardsley are Trump supporters and members of a group supported by Tea Party activists. The group referenced by the mailers is Represent.us, which advocates for politicians on all sides of the political spectrum who support an end to gerrymandering, open primaries, transparency in campaign financing, and rooting out corruption from politics. So, not only is Madigan attacking these two progressives, Our Revolution, it's a Bernie Sanders-backed group that's trying to get progressives elected all over the country, and Represent.us, which does great work and actually going after corruption. But Madigan, who's corrupt, says no, we're going to do that. We're going to trick our voters into voting against the progressives and for establishment candidates. Now, the attack, Sonato writes, comes as the Illinois machine faces one of its most credible assaults in a generation, with Madigan ally Representative Daniel Lipinski facing a challenge from Marie Newman. Now, Marie Newman is a progressive. She's a pro-choice advocate who is now neck and neck with him in polling. So, now, Marie Newman just got a huge bump today as she was endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders. That's got a lot of people there very, very nervous. Now, Madigan represents, and let me give you some background on him, the backbone of Illinois Democratic Party politics, having served as state party chair for 20 years and Speaker of the State House since 1983. Now, Madigan, of course, his representative is defending these mailers, saying, I would assume the mailers are in districts where we're supporting incumbents, which tends to be our general philosophy. Now, Bardsley and Lindquist are running in the state's 16th congressional district against incumbent committee members John Nelson, an attorney who has held the seat since 1992, and Christine Benson, who won the position in 2014. Now, another mailer sent by Madigan's committee claimed that Lindquist and Bardsley would bring a Tea Party agenda to our community and claimed that they support slashing Medicare and Medicaid, repealing Obamacare, privatizing Social Security, and having dangerous anti-environmental policy. Completely and utterly false. They're lying. Let me give you their actual positions. Lindquist has publicly opposed cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and supports Medicare for all. So more health care for people. That would seem to be the opposite of calling for cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. But of course, this goes back to one of the lines used against Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary. Chelsea Clinton, you guys remember that attack where she came out and said, Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan, it would repeal Obamacare and get rid of Medicaid. That's because you wouldn't need a Medicaid program anymore because every American would be covered by Medicare, which in Bernie Sanders' expanded version of Medicare, it would cover things that both Medicare and Medicaid right now do not cover. So, again, this is a huge, huge smear against the progressive candidates in the race by someone who's an establishment candidate. And look at the populist rhetoric that they're taking. Look, hey, we don't want them to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. No. These are Trump supporters. No, they're not. But it kind of shows you how scared the establishment actually is. So, now look, Bardsley's platform also includes pushing for alternative and renewable energy, preserving natural land, and tuition-free public education. So, that's another progressive platform. Not at all Tea Party-ish, not at all Trumpish. These are flat-out lies and smears. And look, they're doing it because they want to stay in power. The establishment is, of course, defending itself. And they do so in the dirtiest way possible. Now, look, this isn't the first time that the establishment has taken aim at progressives. For example, Laura Moser in Texas. Now, there was just a Texas primary on Monday, or on Tuesday. And, look, they attacked her. They said, oh, my God, this Washington insider, again, note the use of progressive rhetoric, she wouldn't represent Texas. In fact, she said that she would rather pull her teeth out than live in Texas. Well, actually, no, that was a quote taken out of context from the Washingtonian, where she said, I don't want to live in the country. I would actually want to live in the city. And guess what? She wants to represent the city. She wants to represent Houston. So after that attack, the DCCC was the one who attacked her. She went from 6th place in the race to 2nd place. She's now in a runoff against Fletcher, the establishment candidate. What happened, DCCC? In attacking her, they actually pointed out to progressives, here's who the real uncorrupted progressive is in this race. Well, thank you, DCCC. I appreciate that. And now, in this race, in the Illinois race, now we know who the real progressives are. And they're likely going to see a massive bump in fundraising, just like Laura Moser's campaign. So, look, if I were Elizabeth Lindquist and Art Bardsley, I would be jumping for joy right now. Yes! Yes! Thanks a lot, Mike Madigan. Appreciate those attacks. Just watch the money roll in now from actual progressives that want to support progressive policy. Thanks a lot, Mike Madigan. Oh, please, Democrats, continue to launch your nasty, dirty, sleazy attacks against progressive candidates. Go ahead and attack Mary Newman now. We'll see what happens. Continue your attacks, man, at your own barrel. Oh. All right. I keep running out of time. How disastrous is that? Shit. I think I can skip that story because it's kind of old. But I think I'll do one more. Should I do one more? Let's do one more. I don't know. I'll have to check my social media on this. See if you guys support me doing another story or not. I don't know. You guys better give me some likes if you haven't already. All right. I guess. It's corruption, of course. All right. Now, Mick Mulvaney is the interim head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, that was a bureau that was set up during the Obama administration to actually protect consumers. I know, what a strange concept. Well, apparently it seems to be a strange concept and an alien and hostile concept to Director Mick Mulvaney, who has a pretty storied history with payday lenders. In fact, it's being recently reported that the former CEO of a payday lending company, who has been under investigation by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has been asked to be considered for the top job at that agency. Now, this is according to the Associated Press. Now, they said that under Mick Mulvaney, Trump's budget director and acting director of the CFPB, the Bureau has taken a decidedly friendlier approach to the financial industry, including cutting down on enforcement and dropping investigations or lawsuits against payday lenders and other companies. It has also proposed to revise or rescind many rules put into place by the last CFPB director, Richard Cordray, including some that would have put additional restrictions on payday lenders. Now, under Cordray, the CFPB opened an investigation into the lending practices at World Acceptance. On January 22nd, the company said the investigation had been completed without enforcement action. It also said that CEO Janet Matriciani had resigned after 2.5 years in that position. Now, that is the CEO that now wants a job in the administration, in the CFPB. Now, 2 days later, they write Matriciani sent an email to what appears to be Mulvaney's personal email address to pitch herself as a candidate to lead the CFPB. The email was shared exclusively with the Associated Press by Allied Progress. Well, Allied Progress is a left-leaning consumer advocacy group which obtained the document as part of a Freedom of Information Act request. Now, here's what she said. Quote, "I would love to apply for the position of director of the CFPB. Who better than me to understand the need to treat consumers respectfully and honestly, and the equal need to offer credit to lower-income consumers in order to help them manage their daily lives." She then attached her resume to the email. She also cited her CFPB investigation into her company as an experience that qualifies her for the job. Now, wait a minute here. She's saying, hey, man, look, I was under investigation by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That makes me uniquely qualified to run the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. No, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. She says, quote, "I have in-depth experience of what CFPB investigation is like. And so I am in an unparalleled position to understand the effect of various CFPB actions on a company, its workforce, its customers, and the industry." What a load of shit. That's like ballsy and brazen right there. Like, hey, man, look, I know how it works. I've been under investigation. That's why I should lead investigations into companies like myself. Gee, I wonder what they're going to find if they do investigations into companies such as mine, that we didn't do anything wrong. Now, that's exactly what Mulvaney is doing. Now, look, there's another layer to this, and of course, it's the corruption. Now, World Acceptance is one of the nation's biggest payday lenders. Now, the problem with payday lenders is that they trap people in cycles of debt. Sometimes, charging people interest of 900 to 1,000 to 2,000%. You know what they used to call that? Loan sharking. This is what the mob used to do. Now, like, the mob looks at payday lenders and goes, "Man, you guys got the market cornered. We don't have any competition anymore. Like, we can't compete. You guys got it on lockdown. And now you've got the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on your side." And the reason that they have them on their side is, of course, the thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from World Acceptance and other payday lenders right into the pockets of Mick Mulvaney. Now, Matriciani's email suggests that she and Mulvaney have personally corresponded in the past. This email is sent to his personal address, and she starts off by saying, quote, "I have always enjoyed our interactions on business and regulatory situations, ever since I became CEO of World Acceptance Corporation in 2015. Now look, World Acceptance, as I said, they're one of the biggest payday lenders, right? So, as one of the lenders who had been under investigation, well, they are under investigation for its tactics, its lending tactics. Let me tell you what they did. They found evidence, the CFPB did, ProPublica did an examination of the company's tactics and found that it repeatedly trapped its customers in debts that they could not repay and charged them interest rates higher than what they disclosed when the customers took out the loan. The Bureau has said his decision to drop the investigation was made by career staff and not by Mulvaney or any other political appointee. Sure. Right. I bet. I really believe that. Oh no, they just happened to drop this investigation, but into World Acceptance, the biggest payday lender. Especially after the guy at the top who was appointed got thousands of dollars from World Acceptance. It just happens to be a big coincidence, right? No, it's the corruption. It's right in your face. It's right there. Anybody can see it. This is the swamp. This is the corruption. This is why government and business shouldn't mix. Now, let me give you some more examples of how deferential the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under Mulvaney has been to other payday lenders. Late last year, the Bureau put into place regulations that would have made it more difficult for lenders to make repeat loans to customers. Now, that regulation was removed. It is gone. In fact, they are reconsidering those rules and have delayed implementation. But as I said, they may be reconsidering the rules, but those rules will never go into place. They'll never be accepted. The Bureau also dropped a lawsuit against another payday lender, Golden Valley. Look, if it's not clear to you by now, Mick Mulvaney is in the pocket of payday lenders, the financial institutions, the so-called global financial elite. They control Mulvaney, they control the CFPB, and the one organization, the one agency that was created to protect consumers, that was actually doing the job of protecting consumers, is now protecting the biggest predators of consumers, payday lenders. This is your corruption. It's right here. It's right out in the open. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. That's all I got time for. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. Around the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Please subscribe, like, share, go to our content. We got videos that go up every single day. So if you go through and you could share those videos and, give us a like and all that stuff, that's appreciative. We do have a couple of super chats to read that I didn't get to earlier. Or at least one. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Platypi, before she left, she said, I will personally make and post a friendship bracelet to everyone else that sends a super chat. Hit me up on Twitter with your favorite color. Hashtag Made in Australia, mate. Support independent media. I love that. I already love the Made in Australia, mate. Awesome. So, look, I love my viewers. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Using the super chat, you're amazing. There's also Patreon if you want to support us on a more monthly basis. That's patreon.com/TYTNation. Again, thank you. You're awesome. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you tomorrow.